Hello everyone, welcome back to Challenge Mode, welcome back to Hillside Gardens in Parkitect, of course. In this episode we're going to be doing loads and loads of stuff. It's a slightly longer episode and highly edited down. I've got rid of quite a lot of footage because I've spent hours and hours working on this. This is pretty much the only thing I've been doing in Parkitect for the last few weeks, I guess since after Christmas. And yeah, I think it's paid off because we've really got somewhere with this pirate area and it's nearly complete now that this is all done. And yeah, so the episode's slightly longer than normal, but I managed to condense it down quite a bit. But don't be fooled because, like I say, that really was quite a lot of hours of playtime. I had to build this wooden coaster twice as well because I didn't have my laptop plugged in. Yes, I play on a laptop, so the FPS soon is going to be getting pretty bad, I think, with all the detail we've got in here now. But yeah, I lost the entire build the first time I built this coaster, so I had to start again. But you know, I built back better, and I'm happier with the second layout anyway. It's quite different to the first one I did. So you're only seeing my second attempt at building this here. I used the inverted wooden coaster for this for some reason, just mainly I think because I prefer the trains. The track itself is exactly the same, we don't build any inversions. It's meant to just be like a GCI style wooden coaster, which I do build loads of in Parkitect, but I felt that this would be the best coaster type to have in a pirate themed area. Not sure why, it just felt right. So there's two main attractions that get built in this episode. One is this inverting wooden coaster, well, non-inverting wooden coaster rather, and the other is a river rapids ride, which I felt was very fitting for the theme that we've got here. So you'll see me build both of them and then work on finishing off the area and making everything look nicely done. Obviously, this coaster doesn't really interact that much with the area itself. It's mainly sort of moulded into the terrain and making use of the terrain, which is something that I really wanted to work on for the coasters in this park, similar to how Alton Towers does. So it's a very terrain conforming coaster. You can see there's lots of tunnels as well, and I try and make them as neat as possible, whilst making sure that the track's sort of as smooth as it can be without spending hours on it. So yeah, I think the layout's pretty good. We do have one element where it goes over the path, does a helix, and then back over the path, so just there on the waterfront, and I think that looks really nice. I think that's something that you'd see from different areas of the park as well, so it sort of draw you in towards this area, see what's going on there. And now you can see I'm working on the river rapids, which I had sort of ideas in my head of how I wanted this to look, and I spent a long time on this because I couldn't for the life of me figure out a good layout. I wanted the wider track as well, and I wanted it to feel like it was going through a valley, but obviously with the coaster track there as well, and a lot of sort of terrain around it, and also the height restrictions with, well, not the height restrictions, but the terrain sort of restrictions, getting enough track that was actually above ground was difficult. And obviously you can't do too many drops and stuff. You can have drops on river rapids, but you know, I didn't want it going up in the air too much or anything like that. I wanted it to run mainly under the coaster, so it runs under itself here a bit as well, and this was all quite difficult to work out sort of how to fit it all in. But we get something that looks okay in the end, and obviously we're going to give it some theme. Some theme, does that make sense? Some theming, I guess. That's not really a real word either, to be honest, is it? But we're going to stick mainly rocks around it and not go too heavy on the theming, but maybe I'll do one or two scenes as well as you go around the track, just to make it tie in nicely with the pirate theme. Obviously if this was a park in the UK, it wouldn't have the biggest budget ever. Although, having said that, apparently we're going to get a Universal Park come to the UK in a few years. You know, believe that when I see it, to be honest. But apparently it is happening. So, yeah, one day we will have sort of top tier level theming in the UK, I guess. But yeah, for now, this is sort of with an Alton Towers Merlin style budget in mind. So some of the building that I do here is maybe a little bit over the top, but I've been very careful to make sure that, you know, they're just facades and a lot of it is backstage, so that it's actually believable that it could get built. And, you know, this is an area they've spent a lot of investment on in the park. So, yeah, hopefully it's believable enough anyway. You can see I put a big castle facade in there. And again, I'd like to think that's sort of with the budget, because it means that, well, it works out well for me as well as a builder, because I didn't really have to build a coaster station. I just put this facade in and then tucked everything else away behind it. So, you know, you'd probably believe that there's a bit of a queue line going through, you know, a dark section when you go to the station to get onto the coaster. So, yeah, I think that worked out quite well actually, and that's probably the best way to lay out your coasters and stuff in the park. Have them at the back of an area, and then you can just whack a facade in front of them and do it that way. So that's what we've done here really. Lots of turrets then, lots of using construction anarchy again to rescale pieces. So we've got the, you know, different sized turrets, but rather than just using basic shapes, we're able to do it with the adventure walls, so you get the brick texture as well. And yeah, I think it's pretty believable for a pirate castle. I think it looks quite nice. I've put little sort of, what do you call them, not drawbridges, but you know, the little spikes that go down over the gates on your way in. And the main thing I struggled with this facade actually was the detailing. So I think I used some archways and then used some arches as windows and stuff like that as well, to add a little bit more detail to it. Here I looked at trying to get a transfer track in, so I dismantled the coaster a bit so that we can make room for the transfer track. And then I realised that you wouldn't actually need this track piece here, but you do need somewhere for the trains to go for a maintenance shed. And I decided on doing it here because I want that River Rapids bit on show, and I probably will put a scene there, or at least some rock work and stuff. So I didn't want, you know, the whole thing covered up by a transfer track at that point, because there's a lot of the River Rapids that would get hidden underneath that. That's not what I wanted to do. So very basic maintenance shed then. I'm not going to go overboard with the backstagey stuff in this park, but I do want to have it there. So that it's, you know, realistic, or as realistic as you can get in Parkitect without going crazy. The shed is on a door, the maintenance shed, so I had to obviously build it. It's on the door, so it's on the diagonal even. So I had to build everything diagonal, including this door. I had to build things out of basic shapes, and because I wanted the same door on the straight edge, I had to build that custom as well. Now have a look at back to the castle facade again, jumping around a bit in this episode, looking at different skulls that we can put on the front to add some detail, and I felt the adventure one worked better, and I thought that was a nice sort of inviting way to show which gate is the entrance to the coaster rather than the exit, because they weren't sort of determinable before. But I really do need to make a sign for this one actually. I did make a sign for the River Rapids, but I didn't get around to doing one for the coaster. I completely forgot about it, to be honest. There are sorry, I can't speak properly. There are some other parts of the build that are completely cut out of this recording. and the reason for that is I just didn't want it to be too long. So I build one of the scenes on the river rapids just after it comes out of the station, which is behind this castle facade you might see just on the edge of the screen, sort of thatched roof type thing, which is part of a couple of facades that I put behind the castle, like I say, for the river rapids scene. So that's all cut out the build, like again, just it didn't get too long. But you will see some of that in the cinematics. I'll make sure that I do a good cinematic, which I haven't recorded yet, and just sort of found the time to do the commentary for this one. But yeah, there's more, like I say, it's been built off camera. So next thing I work on is something I really wanted to do, which is a bridge for the coaster to go over when it crosses over the path, and to sort of give the illusion that the guests underneath are protected. There probably would be netting or something under there, which I haven't done, just to protect people from like loose articles flying out and stuff like that. So I might go back and look at doing that as well at some point. But yeah, really, here this was a lot of sort of heavy detailed work. I've cut most of it out because it's really, really tedious. And I sort of lost my mind a little bit. I had to sort of do this little and often go back and do a little bit and then go back and do a little bit more. Doing it all in one sitting was a bit much. But yeah, it's that typical pirate sort of rope bridge type style. And then all individual custom planks going in. And all diagonal for this section. I actually found it easier to do the diagonal bit than I did the straight section because of how the pieces I used. I used them on a one, I didn't rescale them, whereas to get them looking the same on the straight bit as the diagonal bit, I did have to rescale them to smaller so they didn't clip to the exact grid spaces I wanted. But yeah, I worked it all out. I guess I don't need to go into the mechanics of it. You'll see how it looks when we go back. But I just jumped over here because I had the idea that I wanted a couple more of these rope fences for the queue line of this river rapids. So I just wanted to see how that looked. So I put that in, and then I went back over here to focus on the section of coaster track over the water. And yeah, supporting this was a nightmare. Obviously the pillars weren't a problem, you can just place them anywhere, but working out how to do the borders around the edge so that it matches how it looks on a rope bridge was an absolute nightmare. Would have been easier if I could rotate things, but I still can't get that transform anarchy mod to work yet, so unfortunately I had to just do it like this using various different borders and just blagging it. Really, it's not perfect, but it looks fine for what we need. Again, I cut quite a lot of this footage out because it is very, very tedious to watch. But I've left some in just so you can get an idea of how I put all this together. And then tons and tons and tons of border pieces just to complete the bridge over the water there. So yeah, that's pretty much how I did all of that. We're not even getting to the point yet where the thumbnail of the video is, which is the main facade and the entrance to the station for the river rapids, which we'll get to in a bit, and is kind of the main focus of this build, even though we jump around and do cut to different sections, do loads of different stuff. But yeah, you can see I'm just finishing off the rope bridge here, and I think it is worth all the blood, sweat and tears to get that done, because it really does look quite good in the end. And it's, something a bit different to what I normally do. I mean, I'm sure there is a Pirate Pack mod actually, which would have probably made quite a lot of this build much easier. But part of the challenge of this challenge mode park is to do everything custom, to not use mods other than Construction Anarchy. And it really just shows what you can actually do with Construction Anarchy. Even just using the vanilla pieces in the game, you can just use them in so many different ways. I'm making a little sign there then for the entrance to the area, which we're calling Dead Man's Cove, and I just stuck a skeleton on and some bones and some torches, just to theme it up a little bit. And with that, we're moving on to the River Rapids facade, which is my favourite part of the build. As you can see sort of in the thumbnail, how it all looks together. And it took me a couple of weeks to work on this. Well, yeah, a couple of sessions really. No, not even a couple of weeks, sorry, a couple of sessions. I did this sort of over a weekend, and yeah, I think it all came together really well in the end, because I kept putting this bit off because I just didn't know what to do. I had ideas in my mind of how I wanted it all to look. I wanted different buildings that sort of work well together to make one sort of cohesive facade, but sometimes that can be really difficult to do, and getting the colours right and everything. So in the end, I just thought we're just going to spam a load of custom roofs and not worry about the performance of this park and just hope for the best, really. Once all this build's been put together, it's probably the last time for a while in the park that I'm going to do any custom roofs, just because of how piece heavy it is and how intensive it's going to be on performance, which normally I don't find on my computer is too much of an issue for Parkitect. But yeah, I really did take the mick this time with the piece count, and because they're all rescaled and adventure pieces, that probably doesn't help either. But it just looked too good not to. And obviously I'm copying the same roof style that's gone on to the two main buildings in the pirate area, but just changing the colours up and obviously having some different sort of arrangements and whatnot. So first thing I'm working on then is this tower, and that's sort of going to be the entrance itself to the ride. And this is where you walk under and walk into to get to the ride. And yeah, I've just basically googled a load of pirate concept art from various places, mainly Pinterest, which is always a really good website for different sort of concept art and ideas and stuff. And yeah, I've just got loads of inspiration from there really, and again making loads of little custom pieces using these crates as a boarded up window for the top bit, which I think I've done maybe somewhere else in the park, maybe for the entrance building or something. I know I've used them in that way somewhere else in this park. So yes, kind of fun to carry on that idea, I guess. And then I wanted another custom window down here, so I sort of build out from the building using basic shapes, and then stick a load of borders and pillars and whatnot in, just to get this more believable pirate style window, similar to what's on the other buildings already. And then just finish it off with a little bit of a roof front there. Yeah, and then we carry on basically working on this whole facade. I mean, I think by this point I really knew how I wanted everything to look. I think once you get a few bits together, you get an idea of it. Again, doing this technique with the cut through style look, like the decals, are they called, or something like that, but where you can see the plaster work of the building or whatever is ripped off and it's looking very worn and torn. And I think that works well for any sort of theme like this, just to show that everything's a bit more haggard, I guess. And then doing another one on the side of the building. And little details like this is probably, along with the roofs, what takes the most time in these sort of builds when you're doing things custom, because it's not really how Parkitect was intended to be played. It was mainly meant to be a management sim where you do have to make theming, but theming isn't meant to be anywhere near as detailed as we like to go in for here. Or at least that's what I think anyway, but then with the introduction of mods, all that changed anyway. So yeah, you can see I'm getting the shape of the building together a bit more now and deciding how things are going to look. Another thing I kind of forgot to mention is that everything was off camera, I built this sort of empty shell for everything, just so that I could see the layout of each building. So the same for the castle and for this one, and that really helped actually, because then I could just stick a facade on the front of it and I knew how the layout was going to be before doing it. It's not a way that I usually build, but it worked really well this time, and I'm kind of glad that I did that. And again, this is just a facade, so behind the roof tiles we've just got plain roof, all just, you know, concrete or whatever material will be used there. Probably not concrete, but yeah, that's all going to be backstage stuff, and then we'll have to hide that away from the other bits of the ride where we want, you know, the guests not to see all that backstage stuff, and just like you see in a real theme park. So yeah, now that I've got the shape and the idea of the facade, it's all coming together pretty quickly. Quite a bit of repetition with the windows and stuff, and just putting similar sort of ideas together. You can see a little dormer there's gone in, and then I wanted another section here that sticks out a bit with sort of boarded up windows. And you may have seen that I posted one of those sort of community post thingies on YouTube a couple of weeks ago or a week ago or something, with this building. And that's when I stopped and thought, yeah, I'm really happy with how it's looking. And just before I continued to finish all the facades, that's how I left it. And it was about at this point, so you might have seen this already in photo form. I'm also using some actual brick detail pieces just to make it look like sort of maybe mould on the wall or something like that, or, you know, when the paintwork sort of rips off on a building and it looks a bit dirty and run down. That's the idea here. It doesn't portray it perfectly, but I think it works well enough. Some dirt decal pieces in the cave would be great. I don't know if we've got them in a mod actually. I haven't properly, that's definitely not a word. I haven't properly used mods for quite some time now, other than Construction Anarchy. So I haven't used any mod building sets or anything for quite a while, so I really can't remember exactly what we've got. But again, I kind of like this challenge of doing it with all the vanilla pieces. And yeah, and then also another thing with a roof, obviously I'm doing the same sort of technique that I always do, of using 3 different colours, and that many other people do as well, to give the tiles a bit of variety. And instantly, once you've done that, it really makes the roof look a lot more realistic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of the build, because it's 2 or 3 more fairly similar facades that there's not an awful lot to talk about for them. And I'll see you all over in the next video. I was going to say in the live portion, but that's obviously not what we're doing, because we're not doing campaign playthrough here. So yeah, basically, I mean, gameplay wise, we're doing really well now with that coaster and the river rapids. We're easily making money. You can see there's loads of money in the bank now to play with, so we don't have to worry too much about that. The only real challenge now is going to be getting the 6 coasters in this park and fit everything in with the limited space we've got, but I think that's something we can manage. We've got 2 areas almost completed now, and we haven't had to buy any land or anything yet, so hopefully I can meet the goals that I've set myself in this one. And yeah, that's it. In the next one I'll probably be finishing off this area and then looking on towards what we can do next in the park. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.